Back on the Young Turks. Now we're going to talk to Dean Baker. He's the author of the new book, False Prophets, Recovering from the Bubble Economy. We've talked to Dean on many occasions. He's also the co-director for the Center for Economic Policy and Research in Washington. Dean, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's talk about your book. First, as Condoleezza Rice was famous for saying throughout Bush's administration, whenever anything happened, 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, anything else, no one could have seen it coming. And, of course, that's the excuse they make for the economic collapse. Is that not true?
It's true they make the excuse. No, it's absolutely absurd. This is 100% predictable. The basic story here was about as simple as could be. You had a massive housing bubble develop. By my calculations, it reached $8 trillion. That was what was driving the economy ever since the last recession in 2001. So our recovery from the recession caused by the collapse of the last bubble, the stock bubble, that was driven by the housing bubble. And when you have something, a bubble, a financial bubble of that size collapse, it's going to be really bad news. So you could say we didn't know exactly when, we didn't know exactly what it would look like, the sequence of events, but that the bubble would collapse, that should have been evident, and that when it did, it was going to be really bad news. That all should have been very evident to anyone who was involved in a policy position.
So, Dean, Michael Lewis has written a book, too, and it's called The Big Short. In it, he features this guy named Michael Burry, who saw this coming and thought, God, I'm going to cash in on this thing. And his company wound up making 489% profit over its 8-year run because he's like, it's obvious these things are going to blow, right? So if he can see it, and you could see it, you predicted it before, and so did several other economists, and we all could see it, well, that leads to the obvious question of, is Ben Bernanke an idiot? Is he a dumb guy who doesn't understand what a bubble is or how the markets work? Or does he think, hey, you know what, everybody's getting rich off this. I better shut my mouth and do as I'm told?
Well, my guess is it's somewhere in the middle, in the sense that obviously he had to see something here. I've met him. I don't really know him. I won't claim any insight as to what he actually thinks about the world. It's hard to believe he didn't see something was out of line in house prices. At the same time, I really doubt he realized the collapse would be as bad as it was. I think that was a huge, huge mistake, and I don't forgive him for that. He's obviously willing to forgive himself for that, but I'm not. I mean, that's a big deal. People are unemployed. Now, the flip side, suppose he had done what I would have wanted him to do, to shoot at the bubble, to say, look, we have a big bubble here, to, document this, have the Fed economists document it very carefully with thorough research, to use his platform as Fed chair to call attention to it, to use his regulatory authority to try and rein in the bad loans. The financial industry would have gone nuts. They would have said, hey, we're making lots of money on this. What are you doing? So what he did was the path of least resistance. And so I think it was a combination. He probably didn't recognize that it was going to be as bad as it in fact is, which is a huge, huge mistake. Not to say he's a stupid guy. I'm sure he's very bright and he's a good economist in many respects, but he made a really huge mistake. And secondly, that would not have won him a lot of friends in powerful places, so he took the easy way out.
Yes, I don't think he's stupid either. And at the same time, I don't think he's evil or conspiratorial, and he thought, I'm going to make my banker friends money, and then I'll, go on their yachts and have a great time. I think that the system selected a guy who was going to be a pushover, like Bernanke, and like Tim Geithner at the New York Fed. It self-selects these pushovers who are not going to rock the boat, who are going to let everybody keep on making the short-term money that drives that system. It's almost fairly obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, I think that's exactly right. And one of the points I make in this book, and I've made many other times, is I go, well, Bernanke should be fired. Geithner should be fired. The people who missed this should be fired. And people think, originally they almost invariably think I'm joking. I go, no, their job was to prevent something like this. They messed up. This is the school bus driver who gets drunk, drives in oncoming traffic, and kills all the kids on the bus. I mean, this is serious. You can't mess up more than Ben Bernanke did. So there has to be consequence. But when I convince people I'm serious, then people just think, well, what a bizarre thing. Imagine holding the Federal Reserve Board chair responsible for his performance. So exactly, it is a systematic failure that, as it stands now, if he had done what I wanted him to do, if he had gone after the financial industry and said, hey, you can't keep doing this, this is dangerous to the economy, he'd get in a lot of trouble. He knows that, we know that, that's certainly true. Maybe he'd have been able to pull it off, but he would have gotten a lot of heat. On the other hand, he doesn't do what he was supposed to do, everything collapses, and there he is, still with his job. He's a good guy.
Well, then, of course, the responsibility comes back to Obama again and the Democratic Party that renominated him and reconfirmed him. So I want to fast forward a little bit because I know you have a lot of great ideas in the book about how to fix this, including financial tax we've talked about, financial transaction tax, which we've talked about on the show before. And we're talking to Dean Baker. He's the author of False Profits, Recovering from the Bubble Economy. But I want to fast forward to how. How are we going to get all those good ideas in the book actually done when the system keeps self-selecting pushovers like Bernanke, Geithner, and Obama and puts them in those positions so that the rich can continue to make more and more money and then shovel those losses on whenever they have losses onto us?
Well, we have to play by new rules, try to improvise, try to go around. I mean, one of the things I'm intrigued by. The anger that you see in the country. We had a Republican get elected to Ted Kennedy's seat in Massachusetts. Now, it's not that these people are inherently right-wing. They're very angry about what's going on, and they have every right in the world to be. Now, I don't think the guy they elected is going to give them the answers. But the point is there's a lot of anger out there, and we just have to find a way to tap in, and that means going outside the normal channels. It's not going to be the traditional Democratic Party leadership that's going to get us there. It's going to mean we have to find a way to talk to those people. Maybe not the craziest of the teabaggers, but a lot of the people who are angry and find, are sort of in some ways in sympathy with that anger. We have to find a way to get to those people and say, look, there are things that can be done, and it's about going about it the right way, not yelling at the government abstractly. Let's yell at the government because they bailed out Wall Street. We need the government for a lot of things. We don't need them to bail out Wall Street.
So, Dean, there's all these great people, activists or people within the government like Elizabeth Warren, who's the watchdog, who are fighting for health care reform, financial reform. So in this case with financial reform, talk to me here. Am I being too cynical in saying it's not going to happen? That Elizabeth Warren is eventually going to lose that fight. She's not going to get a real independent agency that's going to keep these guys in check. They aren't going to really control derivatives. They aren't going to really fix any of this system. That's what I'm absolutely convinced of. Talk me down, or tell me I'm right, whichever is.
Well, as things stand, I think they are going to get away with it. But I think that there is a lot of anger out there, and we have to find ways to harness it. And I try to be realistic. I'm not totally pessimistic, in part because of the internet gives us mechanisms to organize that we surely didn't have 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. So but as things stand now, Elizabeth Warren, I have a lot of respect for her. She's been really out front on this, and she's been very clear. She said, we need a real independent agency. If you give us an agency underneath the Fed, well, the Fed already had the authority to regulate, consumer protection. They didn't do it. We think if we turned around and, create some new name and, the new agency there, the Fed's going to do it. So she's been totally on top of this, and she understands exactly what's going on here. So where things stand, my bet, we probably won't see this until people get a lot more angry. By the way, I should just say, I focus on the financial transactions tax, one, because it raises a lot of money, but two, that's something that is going to be really clear. We can get $100 billion a year from the industry, $1 trillion over a decade. We're going to know whether it happened or not. There's a lot of other measures, the details of regulating derivatives, there's a few hundred people in the world that are following that. We aren't going to know. Most people aren't going to know, I'll put it that way. But we're going to know whether we're getting $100 billion a year from financial transactions tax.
Well, we're not going to get it. It's inconceivable. The guy blocked, and if it was the Europeans, then we might get it. Actually, that's a real battle in Europe. But
well, no. Listen, President Obama's appointing this commission that's going to be sitting there talking about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, and having sales taxes on things like food, medicine, clothing. So when we could put that on the table, their people want to take away your Social Security, want to take away your Medicare, tax your food, medicine, clothing. We want to tax Wall Street speculation. I'm willing to take that bet.
Well, Dean, if you're going to take that bet to the American people, you will definitely win. If you take it to the Democratic Party, you will almost certainly lose.
I'm looking to take it to the American people.
Okay, because, look, final question for you, because Michael Moore was on the program yesterday. He said, I believe that there's going to be a second crash, and that's when people get angry enough to throw out not just the Republicans who are obviously complicit in all this, but to the pushovers like the Geithners and the Bernankes and the Obamas who willingly go along with this stuff. Agree or disagree?
Well, I was a little disappointed. I didn't hear the full context, but the crash focuses on the financial markets. We're already crashing and burning. I mean, we're sitting here with almost 10% unemployment, and the worst thing is all the projections, not my nutty numbers. I mean, these are projections from President Obama, from the Congressional Budget Office, the Fed. We're going to continue to have high unemployment for the next 5 years. That's a crash for most people. Is the stock market going to take a dive? I don't know, and it really doesn't matter that much. So basically, the baseline projections from all these sort of authoritative sources are we're looking at a really awful situation for most of the country. It could be worse than they're predicting, certainly, but even their baseline projection is really awful.
Yeah, another part of the problem, of course, is that the national media is full of rich people, and they don't feel that pain at all. They didn't get harmed by this almost at all, especially because we created another stock market bubble, so then their money's even better off. So they don't know that there are poor people suffering out there, and they're not reporting on it.
No, it's remarkable how focused the business reporting, or I should say the larger economics reporting, is on the stock market. And, the stock market just doesn't mean that much for the economy. It means a lot for the relatively small segment of the population owns lots of stock. The vast majority of people own little or no stock. So for them, what matters, what's going on with the unemployment rate, what's going on with wages, with benefits at the workplace. And that picture is horrible. But because the stock market is up, you have all these people saying, "Oh, things are looking good," and no, that the economic data does not support that. It's just maybe their investments look good.
Dean Baker from the Center for Economic and Policy Research and the author of False Prophets: Recovering from the Bubble Economy. Thank you so much for coming on the Young Turks. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
All right, we'll be right back.